Welcome to Teaching Truth. My name is Glenn Cartwright. When Michael Palin travelled around the world in 80 days, on day 30 of his journey, he wrote these words in his book. Not out of the woods yet. The earliest boat to Singapore doesn't leave for 48 hours. It's a Yugoslav freighter chartered by a German company called Bengal Tiger Lines. The chief and, as far as I can see, insurmountable problem is that the ship has no space for passengers. There is a crew of 18 and only 18 places in the lifeboat. Well, praise God that there were and are more than 18 spaces available in God's lifeboat. That through the shedding of Jesus' blood, as we thought about yesterday in relation to the sin offering, we have the opportunity to clamber into the lifeboat and to enjoy that relationship with the captain of our life. And today, as we conclude our reflections this week in looking at the 5 sacrificial offerings that were part of the offerings that the Israelite people made in the time of the Tabernacle, we want to think about the trespass offering. The 5th and final offering was the ashram, the trespass offering, traditionally translated as the guilt offering. And unlike the English word guilt, it doesn't refer to a matter of one's conscience, that we feel guilty about having done something, but rather to something one owes on account of a sin. Other suggestions for the name of this offering are the trespass offering or the reparation offering. And the purpose of this offering in the time of the Tabernacle was to make reparations for one's sin. And as such, and by default, this offering had a specific monetary value. And one who owed another on account of a debt due to a sin could repay it in silver. Now, in the time of the Tabernacle, the Israelites were to present their trespass offerings for their sins in 3 areas. Areas that we read about in the first 6 verses of Leviticus chapter 5. Again, I invite you to read that small section of the biblical narrative. First of all, in concealing the truth. Leviticus chapter 5, verse 1. Trespass offerings were to be presented secondly for contamination by touching, Leviticus 5 verses 2 and 3. And thirdly, in verse 6, for careless talk. And therein lies a reminder, just as it was to the Israelites in their day, in the day of the Tabernacle, that we ought never to conceal the truth. That we ought never to, as it were, contaminate and to stain our lives by touching that, not necessarily physically, but by getting involved in that which is not God-honouring and is not wholesome and good and godly. And also not to let careless talk come out of our mouth, so that we don't need, as it were, then to bring a trespass offering. Unlike the other offerings that we've thought about this week, the trespass offering required that restitution be paid along with the ram sacrifice for sins against quote-unquote holy things and other people. The priests assessed the value of the rams that were offered, and the offenders, the one who had sinned, the Israelites, paid the restitution in silver shekels. The Israelites were required to replace whatever they had withheld from God or from others, and they had to add a fifth of the value that was identified. We as Christians today ought to make restitution wherever possible, whether it be against God or against other people. We should perhaps make restitution for robbing God. Have we robbed God in our tithes? Do we need to backdate our tithe? Do we need to seek restitution for misuse of our time, not giving enough time to God or to his work, or the abuse of a gift? Or do we need to make restitution for breaking a trust, or destroying the good name of something, or slandering the character of another? Have we concealed the truth like the Israelites? Have we become contaminated by getting involved in something that is totally not right? Have we engaged in careless talk? Let me, as I challenge myself, first of all, ask you a very personal and direct question. Has God impressed upon you, as we've thought today briefly about the trespass offering, the need for you to go and make restitution with someone, to seek perhaps that restitution with God first of all? Jesus himself, to whom the tabernacle points, to whom the trespass offering points, gave very clear instructions on how we are to deal with trespasses against others. Just read Matthew chapter 18, verses 15 to 35 to find that out. True blessing can only come when we are in proper fellowship with God and our fellow man. Do you need to present today a trespass offering? Do you need to make some form of restitution, be that to God, be that to other people? The challenge from Leviticus, as it was to the Israelites in the time of the tabernacle, was to go and make that sacrifice. And the urgency within me today simply says this: go and make that sacrifice. Let me finish with the words of Isaac Watts as we think about sacrifice. Were the whole realm of nature mine, that were an offering far too small, love so amazing, so divine, demands my soul, my life, my all. When we think not so much about the sacrifices in the tabernacle in the Old Testament time, which were in a sense only temporary, but when we think about the ultimate sacrifice, Jesus Christ, who died on the cross for you and I, to whom the tabernacle points, to whom the sacrificial offerings point, we think of his amazing and divine love. That sacrifice, which demands our soul, our life, our all.